And we're jumping right here into the action. No introduction needed as our players here, Giovanni Cischke and Mao Harada, are going to lead off here in this top 16 match. Giovanni here leading off the Lunala and the Chiyu, a very impressive lead, and Mao also with an impressive lead in the Koraidon and Fluttermane. Both players wanting to have some fun in the sun, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really powerful supportive Pokemon for some really relevant restricted Pokemon in this matchup. Setting up that Sun right away, though, from Mao is going to cause some problems with just how much damage output this Chiyu has later. If this Chiyu can find a way around the Koraidon, that's going to make things really high damage output from Giovanni's side just with that Chiyu. And I think the Lunala is in a nice position, too, with that Shadow Shield protecting it, to go for some pretty powerful attacks. We see it even has that Meteor Beam, so that Koraidon doesn't have a safe terrestrialization necessarily. That's going to be some really interesting damage output from that side of the field.
Absolutely, and we do see the terrestrialization here from Giovanni, and that's going to be into the Lunala, into a water type, just so it takes maybe a resisted hit there from that Karada, and more importantly, the 4-time super effective Shadow Ball that could potentially be coming out from Mao's Fluttermane, as that is the move of choice that is going to opt there to break the Shadow Shield on the Lunala, and a Heat Wave from Chiyu here, thanks to that Choice Scarf outspeeding the Karada, doing a nice bit of damage with that critical hit. Over 50%, Geo definitely is thankful for that, and this Lunala is going to get to use the fact that the Beads of Ruin are on the field as well, following up with this Moongeist Beam, able to hopefully finish off this Koraidon, which it does, and I think Geo is very thankful for that critical hit on the Heat Wave, being able to finish off a restricted Pokemon at just the cost of your terrestrialization and not take that much damage at all. You're very, very thankful, and this Fluttermane isn't looking in the best condition either, so I think Geo very happy with that turn 1 there.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really wonderful targeting. If that Koraidon had not gone down, then there was so much pressure from the boosted speed Koraidon to be able to finish off that Chiyu with no terrestrialization available. But just taking that KO right at the perfect moment gives a ton of options going into these next few turns. That Lunala is sitting pretty with the wide guard ability to reduce the damage output from the Calyrex Shadow Rider, and that Chiyu, as often as it can, is going to just be trying to fire off these Beads of Ruin, sun-boosted Heat Waves to get through the rest of the team, which there aren't a lot of fire resist left on Mao Harada's side, so this is going to be a really high potential for the Chiyu to get some damage out.
Yeah, and with a lot of HP left on the Lunala, it's not going to be in much range of any of Mao's single target attacks. So this wide guard here makes a lot of sense just to block against the Astral Barrage, Mao's most likely move. Also blocks against any speed control options that maybe this Fluttermane wants to go for, like an Icy Wind, and just has to opt in for damage. The Heat Wave, though, from Chiyu, thanks again to its Choice Scarf, is going to move faster. The Psychic, though, doing a lot of damage. Lunala actually hangs on at 1 HP, even with the Beads of Ruin there working against Geo. His Lunala is able to hang on by a thread, and this means it's going to get to go for another wide guard, and no Icy Wind option from Mao means it's going to have to take another Heat Wave from this Choice Scarf Chiyu. And I think, again, Geo turn after turn here, and on coming into this third one, is very happy with how this game has worked so far.
Yeah, absolutely. This Lunala is giving all of the defensive backbone needed for this Chiyu to be able to just comfortably shoot off those sun-boosted Heat Waves. And at this point, with Chiyu being so fast, it doesn't look like Mao Harada has a whole lot of options short of hoping for some Heat Wave misses. I think the Mao is really on the back foot here, and maybe even going to have to start thinking soon about the next game.
Yeah, and a protect there from Calyrex Shadow Rider in a desperate attempt to maybe preserve it. If the Fluttermane can get off an attack here into the Lunala, you have the opportunity to go for your Astral Barrages next turn. But again, this Choice Scarf Chiyu is still on the field here, and it's going to hopefully be able to get a knockout with this Heat Wave into the Fluttermane, and that's going to be super impactful and reveal the last Pokemon here for Mao if it does land. It goes into the Protect first on the Shadow Rider, and it does connect there on the Fluttermane, able to pick up that knockout. And that's absolutely huge. Giovanni does have to reveal one of his 2 Pokemon here in the back. And, you know, with the sun still up, something like the Fluttermane we see Giovanni hovering over makes a lot of sense as potentially getting even more speed control, right? With the Photosynthesis boost, Fluttermane with the Focus Sash are more likely to be running that speed booster to just have faster be faster than threats like the Shadow Rider to Icy Wind them and things like that. So with the Choice Scarf and the speed boosting Flutter Mane here, assumably, you're in a really good spot if you're Giovanni, regardless of what Mao has in the back. With the Beads of Ruin, with the speed control, you are looking very nice. And it is going to be the Clefairy there, which, yeah, that means Mao's last damaging option is this low HP Calyrex Shadow Rider. And even if Mao is able to find their way back into this game, the Life Orb is kind of ticking you down as well, and you're on a clock.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if the Calyrex Shadow Rider has enough attacks left that it could even possibly KO the Chi-Yu, even if Giovanni just switched for the rest of the game. So I think at this point, things are definitely looking forward towards that game too. I think Mao's seen the danger now of leading Sun if there's a Chi-Yu opposition. Unless you get that KO right away, it can really roll with the game. We're going to see this last turn play out, the Follow Me from the Clefairy, and an Icy Wind from the Flutter Mane, which might just finish off right away that Calyrex Shadow Rider and bring us into our game 2.
Yeah, and a very explosive game 1. Not only did we hop in this game fast, but it finished it off quickly as well, which, you know, it happens sometimes that these games are just explosive. I believe these players also played earlier in the tournament as well, so for that match to have hurried up that quickly, that makes a lot of sense that it was that quick, that both the players knew, okay, this is what happened potentially in our previous game. I kind of know what we have to do anyways. Let's just see how it goes. And, you know, I'll adjust on the fly if I have to. It seems that way, at least from my perspective, that, you know, the game plans were very solidified, that Giovanni knew exactly what he had to do in that game. And I'm, you know, curious to see if he has to adjust at all in a game 2. It seemed like a very straightforward game plan. Yes, he survived with the Lunala and things like that, but it seemed very straightforward, and maybe that Giovanni was prepared, you know, for the Lunala to go down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a few options that are really important here, though. Like the Mao Harada had that option to immediately try to take a KO on the Chi-Yu instead of going for that Flame Charge. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's actually some predictions and some mind work going on for both of these players having played before. I think that there's just a ton that rides on this very first turn. And so being able to try to sort that out can be really tough.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, both these players are here in top 16 of the World Championship, so tough for sure, but I think both players are very capable of making hard decisions like that, not only in-game, but outside of it as well, while preparing maybe for their top 16 games, because that's another aspect of it as well that we have to think about, is as you get to these top matches, you guarantee know who you're going to play, and the limiting options of instead of playing, you know, from a range of like 400 something plus players, you have either 2, right? And prepping for that is a large part of these top cut games. A lot of players, you know, maybe go back and watch some stream sets and things like that to prepare and really hone in. You can have a lot more focused prep before you get into your top cut games. But, you know, with how quickly these games are happening, maybe they don't have much time to prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. These players both just really, like, at the end of a long day of a lot of really high stakes top cut matches, really have to just go in and make a lot of snap split second decisions. So we're going to see that same lead as the last game hitting the field. We've got the Lunala and the Chi-Yu against the Flutter Mane and the Koraidon. A little bit of order switching for the Koraidon and the Flutter on the other side, but nothing significant. And the question really is, what are these players thinking about on this first turn? There's so many coin flips at play here.
Yeah, and I think Giovanni's choice in game 1 to go for that terrestrialization there on the Lunala makes a lot of sense, right? Again, the Flutter Mane threatening that 4 times super effective Shadow Ball is super threatening, as well as a follow-up attack from the Koraidon, and with that Sun Boost, the Orichalcum Impulse, as boosting the Flame, the Flare Blitz could be very dangerous if Lunala does not terrestrialize here. So I feel like Giovanni has to terrestrialize it, but you also have to lead the Lunala in guard of something like the Calyrex Shadow Rider on lead. And it could get out of hand very quickly if Giovanni does not terrestrialize. But we see him go for the terrestrialize here. Just again, you really have to. I can't emphasize that enough, but the Chi-Yu is going to get to lock in its own move as well, and I'm really curious what Mao chooses to do this game, as it is going to be a Protect there to block against that massive Heat Wave damage that we saw in game 1.
I really like the Protect here, just sort of staying safe from that double target option from before, while breaking the Lunala's Shadow Shield and forcing that terrestrialization. Chi-Yu does get another Heat Wave off for its trouble, which is going to be taking that Flutter Mane almost down to the Focus Sash with that Sun and Beads of Ruin. Moongeist Beam is going into that Protect, though, so that's actually a really strong play from Mao, not losing any Pokemon in this first turn relative to the last game, but very crucially, with that Terrestrialization now locked on Giovanni's side of the field, Mao knows that that Chi-Yu can be safely targeted with a Fighting-type attack. It can't turn into a Ghost-type or anything with Terrestrialization. And unless that Lunala goes for Wide Guard, there's even an option, I believe, to just go for an Icy Wind and Fighting move and not have to worry about that Chi-Yu anymore for the entire rest of the game. So it doesn't look like too much has happened on Mao's side, but there's actually a bunch of momentum here and a lot more certainty in the kind of approaches that Mao can take.
I think you said it exactly correct, that Mao has now the option of picking moves around the Chi-Yu, right? Instead of game one where you had to deal with the Choice Scarf Chi-Yu, Heat Wave, you saw what it locked into, and as we see, Mao swap out the Koraidon actually into Incineroar, also going to take a potential Heat Wave and a following Moongeist if Geo sticks to that play as well. Being able to take both those hits on Incineroar is much more favorable, as the Moonblast there into Chi-Yu doesn't get a special attack drop, but actually, the Chi-Yu's going to miss the Incineroar as well. If that was into the Flutter Mane, that would have been absolutely huge. But Mao getting a bit of damage there into the Chi-Yu, maybe playing around a potential Icy Wind. Just going for straight damage in the Chi-Yu makes a lot of sense as well, so that maybe you can finish it off later with something like a Flame Charge from the Koraidon, or, an attack from the Shadow Rider in the back, which we know would both be resistant, so chipping it down as much as you can is very helpful. But actually is going to be the Rillaboom here instead of the Shadow Rider, so leaving one of the restricteds behind at home.
Yeah, really interesting. I think because the Lunala has gone and turned into a water type, this Rillaboom actually has a lot of interesting options to do a lot of damage into that Lunala. The big challenge is how to make it through all of these really powerful fire type attackers as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if we happen to see a Terrestrialization from this Rillaboom. And there's certainly still this question. Mao had an opportunity to get rid of that Chi-Yu last turn, but didn't take it, trying to keep that Koraidon safe, and now there's still a lot of onus to try to make sure that these sun-boosted heat waves don't keep firing off. And so there's maybe a potential to just go for a fake out and a target into that Chi-Yu to try to finish it off. But you really don't want to give this Lunala too much wiggle room here either.
Yeah, and I think with the double fake out here on the field, Giovanni feels pressure to switch out the Chi-Yu here into the Koraidon, which is definitely a lot more threatening against an Incineroar and Rillaboom, which Koraidon can hit both super effectively. Mao's not out, though, with the Terrestrialization coming in onto the Rillaboom there, and that's to just get away from a potential Heat Wave from the Chi-Yu. Water Terrestrialization fares very nicely, as you are going to be able to get a safe Wood Hammer here, potentially into the Lunala, as a fake out goes off into it. If this is a Wood Hammer from Mao, this is going to really hurt. Now that the Shadow Shield is broken, that's a knockout there on the Lunala, and Mao, I'm sure, is very happy about that turn overall.
Yeah, that's a huge, taking no damage, getting off of all of that targeting. That's such a good testament to the choice of bringing this Rillaboom into this matchup. I think we really can see why Mao wanted to consider swapping things up and not bringing that Calyrex Shadow Rider, and it's really paid off so far. I think the question now, though, is you've gone through the Lunala, but Mao still has to get through a lot of other really powerful sun-boosted Pokemon like that Chi-Yu, and we can see the Flutter Mane option that Giovanni has as well. And now that this Chi-Yu can change the type of attack it locks into, sure, the Rillaboom is a water type and isn't weak to fire anymore, but if the Chi-Yu locks into Dark Pulse, then that's not quite so helpful anymore.
And without Fake Out being here on the field anymore, as it is past the first turn that both the Pokemon have been on the field, Chi-Yu is going to be able to get the attack off. Of course, Mao goes for something like a Grassy Glide in an attempt to get some damage on the Chi-Yu before it does move, which, if you do expect a double up from the Koraidon and a potential Dark Pulse from the Chi-Yu, as you mentioned, that could be a play, right? To get a little bit of damage before the Rillaboom goes away, just to make sure you can guarantee some damage on it. But with the Choice Scarf, I want to emphasize again, just having that speed control, I think, has favored Giovanni so much in this game. But with Mao's bulkiness that are usually on the Rillaboom and the Incineroar, I think that Mao has a way, if you can reposition something like the Koraidon back in with a Fake Outer, you are definitely still in the game. As, yeah, we see the Grassy Glide there, not finish off the Chi-Yu, able to hang on even with the critical hit there. If you were able to finish off, that could have been huge. Heat Wave, though, doing a tiny bit of damage as the close combat there is going to finish off the Rillaboom. But I think that small bit of damage is excellent, especially if you follow it up with a U-turn on their Incineroar here. If this is into the Chi-Yu, you're able to finish off that threatening target and reposition that Fake Out and get that spot that we just emphasized with the Fake Out plus the Koraidon. And this is still a game for Mao.
Yeah, that U-turn really turns things around there, getting rid of that Chi-Yu. Probably the Grassy Glide plus U-turn would have finished off the Chi-Yu regardless, but definitely nice to get that critical hit, and I have no question in the matter. That's very crucially not just going to get the Incineroar out, but reset the Intimidate and the Fake Out, which is going to give a ton of opportunities for Mao to be able to claw his way back into this game. The big concern that I have right now is as that Flutter Mane comes out. I think Giovanni still has that really important Pokemon that has been preserved on his side of the field, whereas the Flutter Mane on the other side is gone. And so I think with this Fake Out immune Flutter Mane, able to get that Photosynthesis boost and threaten a KO on a Koraidon on Mao's side that cannot Terrastalize, I think the momentum is still very much in Giovanni's favor, even with that Incineroar hitting the field again.
Absolutely, and with the Focus Sash intact as well. Yeah, Moonblast is going to go straight into the Koraidon, get the one-hit KO being 4 times super effective, and with the Flutter Mane, Focus Sash intact, and this Koraidon staring down Incineroar, who just went for a Fake Out, I believe Giovanni has this game 2 sealed up and would move on to top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Giovanni getting a lot of really tight calls correct and preserving the right Pokemon to just be in a spectacular position at the end of this game. I want to call out, I think there was something really interesting that just happened that turn. It was the last turn of Sun, and so it was the last turn that the Flutter Mane was for sure going to be faster than the Koraidon. So there might have been a bit of a mind game there about whether the Koraidon would protect or not, and it looks like Mao just happened not to get the call right, and Giovanni got the call correctly, and is moving on to top 4, I believe. That's just so impressive from Giovanni. A really fast and explosive set to bring Giovanni into a great spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got into the match so quickly that our graphics didn't have a chance to update, so I had misspoke earlier and mentioned top 16, but that was, again, a top 8 there of the World Championships there, one of our matches. Giovanni is going to be moving on to top 4, and I'm very excited to see what he has to offer in our top 4 games. But we have so much action here for you today, and hopping into that game, having it be so explosive was honestly so much fun and a great way to kickstart our day, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. We came into the game with a ton of Sun and a ton of Fire type attacks, and it did not disappoint. That game was, I think, like 4 or 5 turns each time, and that was kind of it. These players really know what they're doing. They have these really powerful offensive teams, and they knew that it was going to come down to a couple of crucial calls, and Giovanni managed to get them correct.
Yeah, and it's so hot over here that maybe the sun has reached all the way over here from Anaheim, but I think I am expecting a lot of great things from, both these players, even Mao, right? Even though it was a 2-0 defeat for Mao, I mean, again, Mao made it to the top 8. That is no small feat at all, and Mao has done so many incredible things and will only continue to do more, and hopefully we get to see them there at the next World Championships. But that's going to be it for that match as we jump into our matchups here on our pairings, as we get a review of what our top 8 looks like. We just covered, again, Giovanni versus Mao, but we have some other amazing matches here for you guys in Victor versus Hirofumi, Michael versus Montana, and Ko versus James. Tons of different talent from all over the world.
Yeah, some extraordinary names that have made it to this top 8 cut, not least of which are the 2 that we've just shown, but there's 3 more incredible pairing matches. Just for people to be aware, we're going to be casting 1 more of these, and the main stream is going to be casting 2 of them, so make sure you pay attention to both streams so that you're able to catch all of this action. I'm really excited to see how these matches turn out. I think so many of these names I recognize as names I would have thought could totally win the World Championships, and to see them having gotten this far is just a wonderful testament to their skill through a really grueling competition.
Absolutely. I mean, a couple of NA players there, for example, James Evans, a previous Worlds winner, is a talented player there. We have Giovanni, who we just mentioned, who has been on the rise this season as well. Even a lot of the Japanese players in the bracket as well are posed to win it. I mean, there's a bias where it's every odd year a Japanese player is set to win the World Championship. So, I mean, there's still 2 of them in the bracket as well. That possibility is still there as well. But it really is hard to emphasize how much talent is at the World Championships. And, only one person can win it all. So I'm really excited to see who is going to become the world champion.
Yeah, absolutely. There is so much action in store to be able to decide who's going to be able to make it to the top. I want to really quickly shout out, I think that there are 2 people in this bracket who have previously won the World Championships in the seniors division. So there's a couple people gunning for maybe even a repeat World Championship, which would be really exciting to see. So certainly anyone's game, but there's a couple of really important names to be able to watch out there for. We have Kotsukide versus James Evans, the 2 former world champions in the matchup. And as you mentioned, the 2 Japanese players in an odd year, definitely looking good for them.
Yeah, but I think that is going to be it from us for now. We are going to cut to a quick break before our next match, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more action.